But like, Trump could not do this without the silence and neutrality. What is, I feel like there's a quotation, and it's like the hottest places in hell are reserved for those people who in moments of crisis maintain their neutrality.
And I think there's like a Dante, like the circle of hell.
I'm going to look this up because I got to tweet it because that's how I feel right now.
You're composing tweets while we're taping. Hello, everyone. It's JVL here with my best friend, Sarah Longwell of the Bulwark. So I am writing today a big rah-rah, it's the girls versus the boys thing. In the last couple days where we've had Trump talking about how he's going to protect women, whether they like it or not, and Charlie Kirk getting real upset at the idea of women voting independently, and Jesse Waters saying that, like, if his wife voted for Harris, like, it would be time to divorce her. It would be like having an affair. This is another, like, mask. What? Oh, you didn't see this?
Wait,
yeah, Jesse Waters was like, if my wife voted for Harris, that would be tantamount to her having an affair. It would be time for divorce.
Okay. Jesse Waters is such a scumbag. Also, his wife is, I believe, his former intern that he cheated on his last wife with.
I mean, who can say? The heart wants what it wants.
Okay.
It's another, these people are all part of Pro-Life Inc. to varying degrees. And, like, I'm sorry. The level of upset that this part of the MAGA is having over the idea of women electing Harris is kind of stunning. And again, it's just something that just speaks to my failure to understand the world clearly in the before times. Because I didn't understand that this strain existed in conservatism, and it absolutely did. But I didn't see it in my circles, and so I thought it didn't exist. And there is a whole big... Now, maybe it's gotten bigger over the last 8 years than it used to be, but I'm sure it was always there. But there's a huge part of this that is just like, we have to control women. Sorry, you're supposed to say something here. But you're like, sorry. Yeah, obviously. You're like, welcome to the world, JVL.
No, I too. I mean, I would say... the big revelation for me was not revelation. Like, the thing is like, we know, you know, something's there, right? You like, it's like, if you're like a Democrat, there's like a real strain of anti-Semitism, among, some of these young people, or just in general. But like, you don't know, that it exists. Like, things exist in pockets. So, like, I knew that there was racism. That there's sexism. Like, that those things exist. The question is like, at what point do they become dominant strains? Like, at what point do you realize that they are not just something that lives in the shadows of your coalition? And I think that Democrats had to, like, grapple with this a little bit. But it is like, on the right, the extent to which we were surrounded by people who were driven actually by racism, nationalism, sexism, how much of the anti-abortion movement is around controlling women's bodies, that is like an animating. Now, I've also always been like, well, regardless of what animates certain groups of people, there's still the question of like, is something right or wrong? Right? Like, what our immigration policy is, like, we should evaluate clearly, and like, even if some of the people who are pro, let's just say like, not closed borders, but like stricter border control, some of them are animated by racism. Like, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have stricter border control, right? We still should, in my opinion. That being said, like, the extent to which people on the right are animated by racism, xenophobia, sexism, misogyny, really has, I think, And also like didn't mean any of the other stuff, like that it's all a posture. I mean, this is one of the things that was just revelatory for me. I had been in conservative think tanks, and I had sort of taken Christians and Catholics at their word around their opposition to gay marriage, that, you know, they had religious objections, sincerely held ones, only to watch all of those people, Rick Santorum, totally capitulate Molly Hemingway in the face of Donald Trump. They just were like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter, these thrice married, adjudicated rapist, cheats people out of, like, not a single thing that he did was consistent with the moral universe that they had claimed to live in. Ben Shapiro. And then also the anti-Semitism on the right. I mean, like, at what point does, you want to talk about the kids on college campuses, Scott Jennings? Okay. I didn't care for it. You know what else? Donald Trump literally had dinner at Mar-a-Lago with the most well-known white nationalist, self-described white nationalist,
right? This is, yeah,
in the country. That's what Donald Trump, the person running for president, did it. And so, like, I mean, I'm sure I've said this before, but I bristle even still at sort of I don't think people should say that Trump is Hitler. I think we should say accurately that what Trump has specifically expressed is admiration for Hitler. Okay, so not this Trump is Hitler, and not, you know, America is in 1932. That being said, I remember being young and learning about the Holocaust and being like, but I don't understand how that could happen. Like, I was genuinely, one of the reasons I was I got interested in the Holocaust is I could not figure out how human beings let it happen. And I felt that way about slavery too. Although the fact that, like, and I guess it's all happened, right? It's like we've been watching all through human history people enslaving each other and trying to exterminate each other. But I guess the closer we get to the modern world, right? And like, so like in living memory, when I was growing up, right, there's like still people that existed with the tattoos on their arms. I mean, at this point, there might still be a few people who were very young children when the Holocaust happened. So I guess they're still, but like it's in our living memory. And so it was just very like, how could this happen? How could people have let it happen? And that's the thing that I understand now. Like, that's the thing that has clarified for me in this moment is how people, how much, and it really is like the people who refuse to say something, right? It's the people who don't stand up. Like, you can understand how there's like a guy like Hitler. You can understand how there's a guy like Mussolini. You can understand how there's a guy like Donald Trump. And I do not say that to say that Trump is Hitler or Mussolini. I don't think he is. And I actually think those comparisons are misguided, because I think it takes the conversation to a place where, like, Hitler killed 6 million Jews. Like, these are not the same things. What is the same is human beings' unwillingness to stand up in the face of something that is deeply wrong, deeply morally wrong, when they know it, and for them to talk themselves into a position of neutrality. And that's the human thing I understand now. And it's the thing that causes me the most sadness about where we are. But it also is clarifying, because now they've shown themselves. We know who they are. We know who the cowards are. We know who the people are who jump on the train to help for their own expediency. We know what the true believers look like. We know what the human impulses are. And we know who the people are that we should never, ever trust, whose judgment we should never, ever listen to. If you can be neutral in this moment, you should not be taken seriously as a thought leader or a political leader.
I think that's right. And the corollary lesson to this is, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you thought this because I thought it. I had thought that liberal modernity had solved for all of these problems.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so whatever happened with Hitler's willing executioners, whatever the failures of like the Weimar Republic, or, Hungary or Poland or wherever you have it. Those were failures that belonged to a different kind of social order, and that the social order we had built would be immune to those things because we just fixed those problems, and we built the guardrails into the system. And it has been chastening, but it's important to learn that that is not true.
Yeah.
That is not true. We may be more steps away from authoritarianism than Brazil or Venezuela or, another younger democracy, but we are not a million miles away from it. It's not, there is not an impenetrable wall between us and that. That wall needs to be manned still, right? And I feel like it makes me sound like a crazy person to talk that way. But I don't know how anybody who has encountered the last 8 years couldn't come to those conclusions.
Or just like, I find this difficult. Is like, when I woke up this morning, I got up at like 5 and I saw that he had said this thing. And I was like trying to say what I felt about it. And I was like, I got sort of like, how many more ways are there to say how dangerous he is? How many more ways are there to say he's telling us right now who he is? And like, there's part of me that's like, I don't know if it wasn't Access Hollywood, if it wasn't standing on stage with Vladimir Putin and siding against America's intelligence community, if it wasn't January 6th, if it wasn't being an adjudicated rapist, if it wasn't siding with the January 6th attackers and saying that they're political prisoners, if it's not saying Liz Cheney should have 9 barrels of guns pointed at her face, and let's see how she feels. Like, I don't know, man. Like, if you can still, in the face of all of it, him saying that the 2020 election was stolen, him cheating all of his businesses, him being insanely corrupt, his vice president not endorsing him, his former chief of staff saying that he praised Hitler's generals, saying that he called our military men and women suckers and losers. Like, what is it going to take for you to look and say, I don't care who's on the other side? Like, this perfectly normal person who has some policies you don't like, but who says she's going to be a president for all Americans, put a Republican in her cabinet. I'm sorry, that's a tough choice for you. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, and I'll go another one more JVL Hobby Horse. The Washington Post and the New York Times have it as a matter of policy that they need to give platforms to people who defend this stuff, right? I mean, the Post publishes Hugh Hewitt and Mark Deason on the reg, who are going to go on and either defend this stuff or ignore it and pivot to some other defense of Trump. And the unwillingness of liberalism to take its own side is another big systemic problem. And maybe you can't fix it. Like, maybe the New York Times can never be the Bulwark. Maybe the Washington Post can never be the Bulwark. But I don't see why not. I think that's just a choice, right? I mean, I don't see any reason why the people who control those institutions can't make different choices and can't abandon this weird kabuki, well, we're just going to play straight down the middle and, got to have voices from both sides. Like, I think this is a big institutional problem with where we are, but not one that's unfixable, right? Like, we could make better choices if we didn't have idiots in charge of these places. I don't know. All right, I'm petering out here. I have some fun stuff to talk with you about before we get out. But first, I got to do our notes. All right, this is just programming for next week. It's going to be a big week. And please, everybody, marathon, not a sprint. We are almost certainly not going to know the winner Tuesday night. So, and even once we have a winner, if the winner is Harris, that's just like the beginning of phase 2. So don't be like, oh, I just got to go out and live it all up on Tuesday night. Next Tuesday, no Just Between Us. No Just Between Us on Election Day. So let's back up starting Sunday. on Sunday night at 9 o'clock, Tim and I are going to do a town hall for the founding members of the Bulwark, for the founders tier. It's going to do our
tell
AMA.
people how they can become a founder then, so that they can join that if they want.
If you would like to pay us more money and become a founder, you can upgrade to the founders tier. As I say all the time, we are very we're very, very ginger with how we like creating different tiers of subscribers. The founders tier is really just a way for people who have more resources and want to support us at a higher level to do that. Very, very few perks for it. Basically, you get more gift subscriptions to give. You get gift subscriptions you can give away to your friends, and we do a couple of these events a year with AMAs. But the whole purpose of this is so that we can then go and comp anybody who wants to join the Bulwark.
That's what we do with the founders tier. We use it to offset for people who say that they can't afford a subscription.
Because this is a thing we do all the time. You know, there are whole classes of people who are like, hey, I really wish I could join, but I can't make it. And our default position is you're in, we'll comp you. So that's 9 o'clock on Sunday night. You, me, and Tim, you'll get an email about this. On Monday, we're going to be doing a live stream for all Bulwark Plus members. It'll be a similar sort of pre-election look ahead. And then on election night, there will be a chat for all Bulwark Plus members, a place to sort of hang out and watch the election returns. And once the polls start closing, we will be going live to the world on YouTube with a various assortment of us. And we're trying to stay super flexible about that because we don't know what we will know or when. And we're just going to sort of roll with it, which is how I think everybody should be approaching election night. Again, don't think of it as the destination. This is not the election. Election night is not the end of the road. It is one more stop, unless Trump wins in a blowout. But I think that's unlikely.
Or she wins in a blowout.
Even if she wins in a blowout, even if she wins in a blowout, that's just the beginning. He will try to fight and overturn the election. Hey, Sarah, there's more show.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Are we still talking? We have more talking?
We're still talking. The talking goes on. But that's only for the people who are inside the Velvet Rope, the Bulwark Plus members.
Oh, they got to subscribe.
Yeah. Tell them to subscribe. Tell the people,
You should subscribe,
Sarah.
Guys. Why wouldn't you subscribe? You get all kinds of things. You get some extra me and JVL. You get some extra me and George Conway. You get JVL's Triad. This is one of the best things the Bulwark offers. I read it at least once or twice a week.
Yes. Go and subscribe. We'd love to have you.